The Choi Hark retrospective continues with a special screening at a bougie theater for Once Upon a Time in China 2, the sequel to the smash hit film that made Jet Li an international superstar. This movie had a troubled production. It was only filmed in 2 months, which is insane for the amount of action sequences, the scope, and the different characters, the groups, the different settings. There was a special Q&A session with the composer, Richard Yoon, at the end. You got to learn some interesting stuff about the film. Essentially, back in the day, they didn't have computers to do the sound, so you'd have to basically just set up the reels with a giant fridge-like device, and it just shows you the movie, and there's no dialogue. So you basically just have to watch the film, hold the script in your hand, and the director tells you, I want, this kind of music here. This is going to be a scene where there's a romance song. And it was all very analog, very old school. So that was a nice, interesting little bit of culture. But onto the film. Once Upon a Time in China 2 is definitely another movie I grew up with. I rented it from Blockbuster back in the day when I was checking out all of Jet Li's films back in the day. I think my first of his was Twin Warriors, the crappy release with the dub. There was a collection, I don't remember what company, but they had the Master and they had Twin Warriors, and Dragon Dynasty would later, redo a new version. But when you're growing up in a small town, you grab whatever you can get. So Once Upon a Time in China 2 was definitely something to check out after the first one. This movie definitely lives up to the hype of a bigger, badder, better sequel. This movie has Wong Fei Hung, 13th Aunt and Foon recasted, going to Canton in order to attend a medical sort of show, conference. However, there's lots of political turmoil going on. There's a protests against the Japanese for taking a part of the country. There's also the fanatical White Lotus sect. The beginning, Priest Kung shows his amazing bulletproof skin. He's even stronger than Iron Vest Yim from the first film. And they have the city in a sort of fervor, a riot. They want to kill all foreigners and retake the country. So, of course, 13th Aunt, she likes to dress like a Westerner, so that gets her in trouble immediately. And the movie sets off on a breakneck pace, really. There's a lot more action this time around. The first movie had a lot less Wong Fei Hung, and it was a lot more of his students getting into shenanigans. This time, since we're going on a bit of a road trip, is just him, Aunt, and Foon, basically, and they get in a few scraps with the White Lotus Cult, and then we're introduced to Commander Lan. He's played by Donnie Yen in one of his earlier roles, and he's great. Physically, in terms of acting, he doesn't get to do much because he's just a villain character, but he's basically an ambitious and vicious commander who wants to please the governor by finding and stopping a revolution for a new republic. So there's a list, and Wong Fei Hung meets Sun Yat-sen, who's one of the rebels. So Commander Lan will do anything in his power to get that list, and it culminates to a double climax. We actually get two amazing sequences, one with Wong Fei Hung defeating the White Lotus sect entirely on his own, and then defeating their ideology as well as their champion, and then a final climactic showdown with Commander Lan, which is probably an amazing, impressive two-part action set piece involving bamboo sticks, a giant cloth whip-like thing, and lots of close calls and smacks. This movie definitely ramps up the action. The first film definitely is a lot slower. It's more of a patriotic movie. This one feels more like not an exploitation film, but it definitely feels a lot more dark. It has a darker tone, a darker edge. Wong Fei Hung actually kills a couple of people in this film, not in self-defense either. He actually just goes, "You gotta go, I'm taking you out," and then he does. And there's a few other, more violent scenes too. There's some massacres of white cultists trying to kill white people or foreigners in general, and so there's definitely a lot more at stake, because it kind of feels like you kind of get to feel the sort of unease of the city. It's almost like a character in itself. There's a great juxtaposition scene where we're shown a riot, and there's like white cultist members firing arrows at a small building, and the soldiers are trying to like fight them off with rifle fire, and there's a lot of turmoil, but it's done to a classic sort of old man on the Hu Ching doing a song about like his olden times. So it's like a quiet, gentle folk song, but then what's on screen is violence and like chaos, and it's a really great way to just sort of set the mood of what this city's like without wasting time or anything. It's basically just, this is what the city's like. And there's also some other violent attacks with flaming arrows fired into buildings. So there's quite a lot of stuff going on, and the movie delivers some amazing action set pieces that, you know, rival the first film. I think I enjoy Once Upon a Time in China 2 more than the first one, even when I was a teenager. And I didn't quite like the third one, but I'm going to probably rewatch and get the Criterion box set from the library and probably do the rest. So that's why Once Upon a Time in China 2 is a MovieFiendz favorite.